You see, when you can use the elimination method, it's going to be a lot quicker. So let's use it. And when you can use the substitution method, you better be familiar with it. So when looking at this now, we have x plus y equals 1. We're looking at a plus x minus 2y equals 1. If we look at this, we can see that the x has a coefficient of 1 and the other x has a coefficient of 1, so they can cancel each other out. So I will use the substitution method in a case like this. So we have x plus y, okay, equals 1, and then we have x minus 2y equals 1. So what are you going to do in a case like this? Are you going to add or subtract? Since they're both positives, we're going to subtract them. Okay? So I'll have the x's cancel out, right? This negative 2y, since I'm subtracting a negative, it'll then become a positive. So I'm going to have 3y equals, okay, 1 minus 1 is 0. And then I'm going to have that y equals 0 here. So we're going to take the 0 and substitute it in. We're going to have 0 plus y equals 1. And then I'm going to have y equals 1. Okay, so that is our first question done. Let's move on to our second question. Now, when we look at our second question, we can see that we have a 3x plus 2y equals 2 and 5x minus 2y equals 18. Now, we have y's that have the same coefficient of 2, so we're going to use the elimination method, right? So we have 3x plus 2y equals 2, okay, minus, oh no, see, do not do it where you just assume it's going to be a minus. We need to look at the signs in front of the two y's. We have a positive 2y and a negative 2y, so we're going to add them, okay? 5x minus 2y equals negative 18. Okay, so we're going to have 8x. Okay, the y's are going to cancel out because positive 2y minus 2y will cancel out. And then left with negative 16. And then we can get x equals minus 2. Let me write this neatly for you. X equals minus 2. Right, so then we're going to substitute this negative 2 into one of our equations. So we can have 3 into minus 2, right, plus 2y equals 2. I'm going to have negative 6 plus 2y equals 2. And then we're going to have 2y equals 8. Okay, so now we have this question done. It's time to move on to, oh sorry, 2y equals 8, y equals 4. Now we have this question done. We can now move on to the next one. On to the third equation. So in this third sum, we can see that our coefficients aren't the same for x or y. So I would now move on to the substitution method. Now with the substitution method, I have to make one of these variables the subject of my formula. I'm going to look for where is the coefficient of x 1. And I have it here. It's in the first equation. I could also do where the coefficient of y is 1. But in this case, we're going to have x as the coefficient where it's 1. So I'll rewrite this as x equals 14 minus 4y. Okay, I'll then substitute this into the next formula. So I have 3 into 14 minus 4y plus 2y equals 12. I'm then now just going to solve for this. (42 minus 12y plus 2y equals 12. Okay, I'll be left with negative 10y equals negative 30, and then I'll have y equals 3. So now I just take the same y value, put it into one of the equations. I get x plus 4 into 3, and then there's going to equal 6. So I have x plus 12 equals 6. And then that will then leave me with x, oh, wrong pen. That will then leave me with x equals negative 6. That's our third sum done. I hope you guys are getting them right. Time to move on to the fourth sum. So now in this fourth sum, we have 2y plus minus 3x equals 7 and 4y minus 5x equals 21. So again, we don't have anything that has a coefficient that has of 1 for the x and the y, but also we don't have anything that cancels off instantly. So you can use the substitution method, but you can also use the elimination method. So yeah, I'm going to switch back to the elimination method just so you guys can see, if you prefer the elimination method, how to do a sum like this. So you can see where we have 2y minus 3x equals 7. We're going to multiply every term in the 2y minus 3x equals 7 by 2. So we'll be left with 4y minus 6x equals 14. Then we're going to put our other equation below it, 4y minus 5x equals 21. We can now subtract these two, and we're left with the y's cancel out. Because we're subtracting them, this negative 5x will then become a positive 5x. So we're left with minus x equals negative 7, and we'll have x equals 7. We can then substitute this in to one of the equations now that we know that x equals 7. Okay, so I'll have 4y minus 5 into 7 equals 21. And then I'll have 4y minus 35 equals 21. And that will then leave me with 4y equals 56. Okay, and then if you put that into your calculator, you'll see that y equals 14. Perfect. Time to move on to the next sum. Since we have 3x plus 2y equals 6 and 5x plus 3y equals 11, in both cases they don't cancel out. So what we can do here, we need to find a lowest common multiple for either the x or the y. So let's use the y in this case, and the lowest common multiple would be 6. So what do I have to multiply 2y to get 6? And that will be 3. So then that equation will then become 9x plus 6y equals 11. And the lowest common multiple for the 3y will still be 6y. What do I have to multiply it by 2? So every term then I'm going to multiply by 2, and I'll get 10x plus, oh, this is going to be, I multiply all of those by 3. So this is actually going to be 18. So I now have 10x plus 6y equals 22. I can now subtract these, and that there will leave me with negative x. These cancel out, equals -4, and then I'll get x equals 4. Now that we know that x equals 4, right? We can then substitute this x into one of our equations. We can even substitute it into the equation where we multiplied all our terms. Because when you have an equation, let's say we have 3 equals 3. This is an equation because it's an equal side. If I multiply both sides by 2, both sides still equal 6. And what that shows us is, if you do anything to every term in the equation and you manipulate it, you're still going to get the same value. So that is what allows us to do that, if anyone was wondering. Now, since we have that x equals 4, we can now substitute that in. So I'll substitute it into this 10 into 4 plus 6y equals 22. So I'll then get 40. So I'll have 6y equals 22 minus 40. And then that will now leave me with 6y equals -18. And then y equals -3. This one was slightly trickier, but I hope you guys see how to get the hang of this. Time to move to the final one. I'm sure you guys have looked at it, been reading it. It's scary, has fractions everywhere, but we can do it. On number 6, as I said, some of you guys might get scared with looking at something like this, but when you did it in maths, when you see a sum that looks tricky, try and put it in a form where you do understand it, something that looks familiar. So let's try and remove these fractions. And what number can I multiply each term with in the first equation and second equation, so I let go of both those denominators? So that would be a lowest common multiple for the denominators in the fractions. So for 3 and 2, it's 6. So 6 times that first term will then become 2, because if I had, for example, 6 times 1 over 3, this will then become 6 over 3, and then that's then equal to 2. So that's how I got the 2 on the outside. Now, since we know we got that 2, I'll have 2 into y minus 2 minus, okay, and now we're going to multiply that by 6, which will then be 3 into x minus 1 equals 1, and now I'm left with 2y minus 4 minus 3x plus 3. A negative times a negative is a positive, equals 1. I'm now going to simplify all of this, and I'm going to have 2y minus 3x minus 1 equals 1, and I can rewrite that as 2y minus 3x equals 2. So now that we have all of that, we're going to keep that aside. This is important. So now we have the equation in a form that's easier to work with. So let's do that for the second equation as well. So what's the lowest common multiple for 5 and 4? It'll be 20. So if I multiply the first one by 20, I'll be left with 4. Okay, so I'll be left with 4 into y minus 4 minus 5 into x minus 3 equals 1. Then I'm left with 4y minus 16 minus 5x plus 15 equals 1. And then now I will simplify this. I'll have 4y minus 5x, okay, minus 1 equals 1, and I have 4y minus 5x equals 2. Okay, so now that we have it in this form, we're only working with two equations really, and that's these two equations, because we still have the same equation, just put them in different form. Now in this different form, they're way easier to work with, right? So we can convert this 2y minus 3x into 4y minus 6x, okay, equals 4. Then we keep the other equation the same. The reason we did that is because we want the coefficients to be the same. 4y minus 5x equals 2. We're now going to subtract these. The y's will cancel off. This will now become a plus. So this will become negative x equals negative 2. And we're going to have x equals 2. Now that we know that x equals 2, we can sub it into our equation. So we have 4y minus 6 into 2 equals 4. And that's going to leave us with 4y minus 12 equals 4. 4y equals 16, and then y equals 4. This video is really helpful, and leave a like, comment below how I can make the videos better. I'm still trying to learn. This is the first video I'm making, so if you guys have any tips, I'd really appreciate it, and wish you guys all the best. Any other topics you guys would like me to make videos on, or anything else you want to know, just leave a comment down below. All the best.